Hello, this is Tony Heller from realclimatescience.com. Here's the latest science from the New York Times. Florida leaders rejected major climate laws. Now they're seeking storm aid. Senior Republican politicians in the state have opposed federal action against global warming, which is making storms like Hurricane Ian more destructive. This article is part of our Midterms 2022 daily briefing. The New York Times wants their readers to believe that the U.S. government controls the climate through laws. They want their readers to believe that there's such a thing as federal action against global warming. They want their readers to believe that because Florida leaders didn't support Democrat energy policies, storms like Hurricane Ian have become more destructive. And therefore, people in Florida are getting what they deserve because they didn't vote for Democrats. And this is part of their ongoing efforts to confuse the public with complete nonsense ahead of the 2022 election. The reality is that around the world, major hurricane frequency has declined sharply over the last 30 years. The total accumulated cyclone energy has also plummeted. The New York Times claim that storms have become more destructive has no basis in reality. Every year for the past 27 years, governmental leaders from around the world have gotten together and made agreements to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. They make these agreements based on the superstition that the burning of fossil fuels makes weather like hurricanes worse. And since they started making these agreements, the annual growth rate of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has more than doubled. In other words, these agreements have not accomplished anything. And as carbon dioxide has increased over the last 30 years, the frequency of major hurricanes has decreased. There's no evidence that governments can control either the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere or the climate. What the Democrats' policies have done, though, is make energy unaffordable for the poor and middle class. And the New York Times says that people in Florida should be punished for not supporting the insane policies of Democrats. Unlike the government of Florida, many European governments have legislated the energy policies being advocated by the New York Times. As a result of their government's actions, 40% of people over 50 in Scotland are now facing fuel poverty. Their government's energy legislation is having no impact on the climate, but it is having a severe impact on their population. People in Scotland may be freezing in the dark, but their benevolent government is at least giving them free tampons. Government energy policies in Belgium are going to be causing them trouble for at least the next 5 to 10 years. And after creating the problem, the leaders of Belgium say that people in Belgium need to support each other in these difficult times. But what the people of Belgium actually need to do is get rid of their current batch of leaders and replace them with leaders more like those in Florida. Everything in this New York Times article is complete nonsense, but they're quite open about the fact that it's propaganda intended to influence the upcoming election. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on these scamsters at the New York Times for the past 14 years. You can visit Toto, Kyrie Caesar, Toki, and Upla on the web at realclimatescience.com.